So that was really strange. Sorry, guys. Sorry, everyone. I think it just, yeah, for some reason it just cut out. Let's get uh, Z Yeah, sorry, everyone. We're just gonna reconnect. We had some issues there. Sorry, Zain. I think we had some technical problems there, but we're
Uh,
back on.
I think we're back on track now.
Yeah.
So, what I was going to say is, considering that we are all most of us are students here, and some of us might be experiencing an exceptionally difficult time right now, I think it is absolutely critical to keep in touch with your university, with your staff, with the course organizers, and to be open and honest about the difficulties that you've been experiencing, because as a result, they will have an idea of what you've been experiencing and they can support you accordingly through student support, through consultations, through extensions. So I think that if you're ever feeling ill, there is no obligation for you to push yourself so hard, because as I have experienced multiple times, that it could have detrimental effects on your professional career if you always put the work first and forget, the entire self that you are. So I think this is really important to keep that in mind. And I think this wraps it up. I mean, what are your thoughts specifically about that particular experience throughout your years?
I can just clap. I mean, that's such a powerful point. I think we hit the nail on the head again. Like, wow, of course, people. I think we have to tell the honest truth. This is one of the most demanding courses. I'm sure some of us have some crazy stories. We might have been those people who have cried and fainted. Even I even was around when people, there was an ambulance called. Someone had a kind of a very bad kind of faint attack, and these are the realities of this course. And yes, I think that's a huge problem. And I think there's a place that we're gonna, there's a place for us to discuss that. That would take hours and hours. And even on my podcast, I have been speaking to some people, ex-presidents of RIBA, and talking about all these problems, and these things will change. But what you said, that you need to prioritize your mental health and physical well-being over your work, that that point has been made even more important. And I think everyone's realizing that right now during this whole COVID stuff. You know, everyone's life is put into perspective. We're not going to work, we're not going to uni, we're at home, and we're forced to be with our thoughts and our relationships and our friends and family. And it has reminded us that that's the most important thing. Everything depends on how well you're doing in your own space. It's not external. So 100% agree with
Couldn't agree more. Exactly. I think it is a very important question for all of us to understand, to communicate, and to feel like even though there's so much burden on our shoulders, it's important to share it whenever you're comfortable. So I think I will leave it at that with that question. I think perhaps we could go to the next one. I think it regards
you.
the line progress.
What number do you remember?
21. Uh,
21. I'll read it out. So do you find that you have to clean up the lines? Oh, this is a big jump. Do you find that you have to clean up the lines after you've exported the line image from SketchUp?
No, I think that's a very important question because it's a question of time as well. So I generally work between Revit, Rhino, and SketchUp, but I've noticed that categorizing different elements into different sort of groups, which would eventually lead to different colors, at least in the case of Revit, this will actually allow you to manipulate the line work, sorry, not the line work, the line stroke of these elements individually. So you don't feel compelled to constantly eliminate double lines. You can just create the illusion that there are less lines by reducing the stroke. So I think if you find a way to categorize these elements separately, that might actually be, or another one on AutoCAD is working with the command of, I forgot, overkill. If you
Yeah.
set tolerance to a very specific, very meticulous one, you won't end up losing any lines, but it will save you hours of doing it manually. So I think that's my experience with it.
100%. So yeah, if you guys are taking notes, write that command down for your AutoCAD. It's overkill. Yeah, really great advice. I would say as well on the SketchUp thing, when you're exporting lines from SketchUp, if you've got SketchUp Pro, uh, they're extremely clean lines. They're not like Rhino. Rhino does all these crazy kind of overlapping lines and even overkilling it. There's a mess. That's why I like to actually work in SketchUp. But one neat trick again for you to note down is in SketchUp, sometimes you'll have missing lines, and I think people get confused. But if you just intersect the model with, so if you've got two objects that are like that, and you know that there's a missing line over here, you can select both objects, right click, and type intersect. Intersect. So again, really nice and kind of a practical advice mixed with seriously powerful emotional advice by Zain there.
Thank you. I hope it comes through to all of you. And thank you for having me. This has
Mm,
been great.
awesome. Thank you for your time.
Absolutely happy to. All right. Well, goodbye, everybody, and goodbye, Hamza.
Take care. And just so you guys know, again, you can check out Zane's work on her profile. She's President Medal nominee as well with her dissertation. And again, wow, what a powerful point she made. Reminded us all of what's important. Okay, guys, so that's been amazing. There was an awkward. This is just a break now. Don't worry. There was an awkward kind of shut off there. I think Seni told me that there was a problem that live can only go for 1 hour sessions. So we'll quickly have a 10-minute break if that's okay, and come back. If you guys don't want a 10-minute break, just comment now. And if you want to keep going or you want a 5-minute break, let me know. But otherwise, we'll take a 5 to 10 minute break. I'll come back on in 5 minutes. What do you guys think? So just drop me some comments if you think we should have a break, um, or if you think we're good. Okay, looks like okay. So okay, we'll do a 6 minute break. Okay, we'll do a shorter break, 5 minutes. Um, I'll keep the stream running, but yeah, go off and do your thing, and we'll come back in at 7:38. See you guys. 2 minutes. For everyone who's still kind of hanging around, what do you guys think so far? Has this been useful? Just looking through these comments. So, is it going to be saved on it will be saved on my story for 24 hours, I think. So that is annoying because I I could have screen recorded it, but I couldn't figure out the technology in time. So it'll be on the story. But if we do another one, we'll definitely find a way to save it for forever. um, yeah, someone said, oh, apparently Rogelio says you can save it to the camera roll. Okay. My, my Cameron, yes, it's a party. Whenever you join Cameron, it's a party, mate. Who was the second guy who talked? Who talked? The second person we had was Ty Bibi, Instagram handle TYBIBI. He's probably commented. Oh yeah, he's already addressed it. Oh, you guys are answering. You don't need me. You can do this yourselves. Okay. Have local collective been on? Yeah, no, they haven't been on yet. They're coming on soon. They're on first. They're going to be on now. It's been so good. Only problem is the time zone. Oh, thanks, man. We got projects by people from Australia. Arctic. Oh, awesome, guys. You guys are liking it. DS23. Thanks, guys. Okay, cool. I think we should try to get back to it now. Just to keep you guys aware, if this thing kind of cuts off again, it's because it's been over an hour. So I don't know how it will go, but if it does cut off again, just do as you all did and just rejoin it. I'll start the live thing again straight away. So just keep that in mind. Thank you, Savannah. Thank you, Savannah. Thank you, Savannah. Okay, Amelia is asking, if you have a question for anyone, just drop it in the comments, and we'll see how we go. It's the 5-minute break is up, but I'll wait for a couple of more people to get back from their drink breaks, and then we will get It's a Local Collective on. It's a Local Collective is an interesting one because I only discovered their profile like a couple of days ago, and I instantly just fell in love with their drawings. What I've tried to do with this is get people with varied kind of styles of drawing, and have them contribute. So, for example, you saw Ty's drawings. You have to really check it. I love his drawings. They're so kind of abstract and very phenomenological, and they're very Neil Speller-esque. If you guys know who Neil Spiller is, I don't know how to say his name. The archaeologist, obviously, her insights are incredible. She's a big name in the Instagram game, and very talented designer as well. Fraser, you guys, obviously Fraser's drawings are incredible. He's been so proactive, and he's got such varied style as well. Fraser's been amazing. You saw Sun's drawings are incredible, winning awards left, right, and center. He's one of the most humble guys I know. I love Sun. He's my hero. Tom Rose, wow, Tom is he's a polymath. He's creative. He's doing YouTube. He's doing all sorts of things, and he runs a very high functioning YouTube channel. Which I do a bit of YouTube here and there for the podcast, but for him to do what he's doing. That's very difficult. So amazing insights from him. And then we had the amazing Zayn making the most important points. It was so good to get Zayn on, and she made such a beautiful point. I was even going off and talking about it just now. And she's won awards and does amazing drawings. She's actually doing a project now on Palestine, doing crazy stuff. Anyway, let's get It's a Local Collective on. I think there's enough of you back. And like I said, check out their drawings as well. So we're just getting them in. Hello.
Hi, Hamza. I'm Lisa.
Lisa, okay, I can stop calling you It's a Local Collective.
Yes, that's fine.
Lisa,
that's sort of what my values I wanted to represent me. So
awesome. Well, like I said, guys, if you haven't seen her profile, go and see, because the drawings are really unique and amazing. And it's quite a recent account, right?
Yes, it's quite recent. I recently set it.
So you came on recently, and instantly I jumped on it and got you onto this. So
thanks. Yeah, it's pretty amazing.
Give us a little intro into sort of what your background, your job.
So I've graduated for a year now from Architectural Association. And then I'm working on the Crossroad project at Hawkins Brown. And then I've recently now set up Local Collective, taking on small projects. So I have one upcoming in London Bridge Station. It's a Network Rail station seating. So hopefully after COVID ends, people can gather around the chair.
Amazing. So that's your actual project for your new kind of...
Yes, for my project with TFL.
Wow.
So that's also my sort of motivation for setting up the studio. So hopefully it can keep going. It's difficult, but it's exciting.
You remember too well design when you're super famous and successful. Let's get into the questions. Did you choose any?
Yes, so I chose 9 and 11.
Cool. So I'll read 9. 9 is by Hayes Viz. It says, what are your expectations of architectural visualization?
Yeah, so I thought it was very interesting because it's what we expect when we draw. So for me, I like to think that they are more than representations, but push them to be operations. They definitely should convey our project, but I think we can also use it as devices for thinking. So each stage of iteration sort of uncovers new ground of potential field. There was this writing before about how there's 2 types of drawings. One's descriptive, one's prescriptive. So I like to think that prescriptive drawings are more operative, and they are sort of a translatable body of documents for the act of making. And hopefully it should also sort of embody our languages as architects, designers, communicators. So
could you talk about that? So you said one is prescriptive and the other one is
descriptive.
Descriptive. Can you expand a little bit on that?
So I feel descriptive focuses more on conveying sort of a formal form, composition of your project, which is very important in conveying sort of your design, the concept, and sort of the layout of your project. But descriptive is sort of a more informal methodology for you to uncover your thinkings throughout. So it should sort of be through your entire stage of design. Either it's your intention, your realization, or your evaluation. That's what I like to push each drawing, so that they don't stop at representations, but they're actually operative drawings.
Wow, that's such an amazing insight. You guys should write that down, the prescriptive and descriptive thing you made. So if I was to look at, if people saw the drawings, the kind of beautifully rendered, kind of simple, minimal drawings you have on your profile, would you say those are descriptive drawings?
So there's a series on NHS Land. Those are descriptive. And then there's a series, they're called operative drawings. So those are sort of a virtual catalog that I have. It's based on a study of a Scotland artifact. It's won the RIBA Award for its sort of spectacular use of concrete, bricks, and steel. But it's actually now in decay and in need of restoration. So I thought that was a very good point to start as a study. And so that's what I call an actual catalog. So that's more descriptive. Mm-hmm. And then I bring it into virtual exploration, and then finally into a proposition.
Right. Wow. You should write a book.
No, no, no.
All the
But
taxonomies,
it's sort of where my interest really lies too. Yeah.
Awesome. So I feel like this question is quite nice because you've got nice insights on it. If I were to say, you know, referring to when she's talking about the expectations. So before you start your drawing, where is that idea? Is it in your head? Do you go straight to the computer or do you go straight to the sketch pad? How is the process?
I like to sketch a lot. I think there's something very intuitive about sketching. So I think that's sort of what our body is telling us subconsciously. So I like to begin with that. And then I move to computer and then I go back again. So it's sort of back and forth. It's never just one. Yeah.
It back and forth. You go back and
Yeah.
forth from digital and yeah. Is there another question you wanted to address?
Yes, so I picked 11 as the other because I thought they're quite related and I like that question. Because usually, the first question, I feel we're talking from our point of view, from our end, what we want to achieve with the drawing. So I feel this 11 is asking, oh, sorry, do you want to say the question?
Yeah, go. I'll say it's, what should we show in a drawing? Is it the idea, the feeling? Is it perceptual? Is it the technology?
Yeah, so I like this question because then it's asking from the viewer's point of view, I feel, what you want to deliver for them. So I thought, you know, it can cover all of them. I actually really like that your drawing can convey feeling, can be perceptual and technology and idea. So I feel maybe think of it as a conversation. So your drawing is sort of a dialogue with the viewer that, yeah. So like, how do I put this? I feel if we go back to the question of operative drawings, and we see now this as a conversation, then it should direct maybe sort of your identity or your language as an architect.
Yeah,
How formal and informal that may be.
100%. That's such a good point. You know, the other thing it makes me realize, I don't know what your thoughts are, is, you know, you could have a drawing where your main aim is just to convey a particular feeling. It could be one of those things. You can, you know, and you could do another drawing where the whole idea is for you to just convey, you know, what the perception is of how other people see it. And this goes back to kind of like that peacock thing. Like if you throw a random peacock into your drawing, you know, is there a reason you're doing that? Do you want the person looking at this thing to say, oh, okay, I get the feeling that I'm instantly immersed in nature, or I'm instantly in this place where there's like caution, because I don't know, when I see a peacock, I'm suddenly like, I'm revering it. I'm looking at its beautiful feathers. So what you're saying is true. I believe that you can have all these kind of multimodal kind of elements that you show in the drawing. But what do you think about maybe a drawing that just focuses in on one? What do you think it should be kind of varied?
If it's just on one, for me, I'd like feeling, because I think feeling is very powerful if it's just to convey that. Because I think as architects, we're kind of, if we want to have social ties or contributions, it's about raising awareness. And I think that's most powerful when you trigger feeling in your viewer.
So if I said to you that, you know, obviously we all have to do technical drawings and, you know, details. You know, you might be showing a very, you know, basic, or, you know, you might be showing an abutment of some sort of technical component. Should you start to introduce these kind of more artistic feelings into your details, or should you keep that as a strict technological detail?
That's I think that depends your context. Well, if it's at uni, I think you could push for it that it actually conveys some sort of feeling, or what a stronger message coming from you, because I think that's actually what makes people remember your drawings, because they get to the message behind your drawings. If it's just technical details, I feel it's beautiful, but then it could have embedded more meaning in it.
That's amazing. That gets me excited now to do my technical details, because they can be boring. But I might
there's two words that I quite like. It was from this architect called Shin Nagashira. So he says believable fiction. So the believable comes from the technical details. So that's where you're rooted in reality. Then the fiction is where you come off as architect and you make your intervention. So
write that quote down, guys. Thank you so much for joining us. You had amazing insight. I'm sure a
Having
lot
me.
of people will benefit from that. And hopefully in the future, we'll do something again.
Sure, excited for it.
Take care,
And this
Lisa.
has been great. Thank you.
Okay, so next we're gonna get Reem. Reem final drawing. .pdf is her Instagram handle. Again, Reem is a good friend of mine. We were in the same studio. I can find her. Yeah. And she's like Fraser. She's doing she's so proactive. Hey, Reem.
Hello, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good, thank you.
Reem, tell everyone about yourself.
So I know Hamza from University of Westminster. We were both in the same studio 2 years ago. I graduated from my part 2 last year. Actually, I was with Sun as well. And now I'm just working as an architecture assistant with NG Architects.
Cool. And you started a new kind of group, didn't you?
Yeah, it's there's so much going on. I've started with a few colleagues. It's called Working Muslims Network. So it's basically for all the Muslim women, kind of a network for them to come together, which is something I think we need in our community. We don't have that. It's just to inspire each other. So yeah, we've just started that. So if you guys want to check it out, it's live on Instagram at the moment.
Cool. You guys have to check out everyone's profile and make sure you get to see Reem's activities. Reem, did you choose a question?
I did, but I'm happy to, if you'd like, I'm open to answering any other questions you have.
Ooh, okay.
So let me know. I've got question 12 and 14. But if you want me to answer anything else, I'm happy for that.
Okay, so 14 answered.
12 and 24. Sorry, 12 and 24.
Okay, so let's do 12. So 12. Let's say, okay, so Diana asked, do you know what you're going to do in advance, or do you just start and see where it goes?
Yeah, okay, so I've got some points written down here on the side so I don't forget to mention anything. But one thing I'd like to say is when you start a project in general, but also with drawings, it's nice to keep an open mind as you're going along, because sometimes you envision something, but as you're doing it, the final product or the final drawing doesn't exactly match what you had in mind to start with. So I think when you fixate too much on an end drawing, you kind of stop yourself from the creative process. Kind of becomes limited as you're going along. And one thing I wanted to say was also, when you're doing these drawings, you want to think, this point's been mentioned a lot of times previously, which is architects, they are storytellers. So you most likely want to tell a story with this drawing. There must be some sort of narrative. So what story are you trying to tell? And what I like to do on the side also is have a sketch, like a rough sketch of what I imagine this drawing to look like. And I use that to guide me as I'm doing my digital drawings. It could help as well to kind of build your drawings on a skeleton or a guide, some sort of structure. It could be lines that you've exported from a 3D drawing. I only started doing 3D drawings this year, actually, out of my 7 years in architecture school. It was only this year that I started 3D modeling. So it's okay not to use 3D drawings to build your your final 2D drawings, or whatever you want to call them. So yeah.
Amazing. Yeah, definitely gonna echo what you say about storytelling. Like, especially if you're starting off a project, there's so many ideas. You suddenly have like a thunderstorm, a storm of ideas, and you think, oh, my project's gonna be like this. And if you're like me, you suddenly have a whole end product in mind. You're like, this is what my idea is. And I think what you're touching on in terms of storytelling, like if you lock on to a narrative, then I think you're going to be heading in the right direction. But if you do what I do and you get lost in like the end product and you're thinking about what it's going to look like, you're automatically restricting yourself, right?
Yeah, I agree. And you're constantly thinking of that, what you want your final drawing or end product to look like, that your vision becomes so narrow. You you kind of block out any other sources of inspiration that can potentially make your drawing or whatever it is to look even better than you expected it to look when you started off. So, I mean, a lot of the advice that I could give, that is what has been fed into me from school and from architecture school. And I just remember having tutorials, and it's kind of like, what do you want to show in this drawing? You know, you might want to, and a lot of the times, you know, Hamza, if you remember, my project was about immigrant workers. So I wanted my drawings to tell their story from their view. So a lot of the times it was kind of the images that I was showing were kind of what it would be like if from their eyes. So there was drawings of you know, if a migrant worker was to be looking from a construction site from top to bottom, you know, what are they seeing? And I kind of I would go into their mind and their eyes to kind of visualize it and then translate that on paper.
Wow, that's a really, really good tip. Yeah, I love that. What was the other question?
The other question was question 24.
24. So do you have any particular Photoshop brushes that you use to draw in elements?
I could answer that, or if you'd like, I could answer something else.
I mean, if you have a quick answer to that, you can do
yeah,
that.
I do have a quick answer. So my quick answer is brusheasy.com. And on Brusheasy you can get lots of different type of brushes. So like you type in concrete, you get that, water, smoke, light, you name it, you've got it. So
drop the name again.
Sorry, Brusheasy, like brush and then eezy.com. And it's a lot of the brushes are free, and then you can open it on Photoshop. And yeah, one thing I want to say is I like the use of brush, the term brush, because then you can start to think of your drawing as a painting on a canvas. Like just like a drawing on a painting on a canvas, you're going to layer on these colors and these textures. You're going to do the same thing with your drawing on Photoshop. So don't just get that one brush and use it multiple times. You can scale it up, rotate it, change the opacity, you might want to use green, but try different shades of green, and I think that adds different depths to the drawing. And even if you want to erase something with the eraser tool, you can use one of those brushes that you've downloaded to do that as well. So don't just go in for that one brush and paint your whole drawing with it. Try and, you know, vary it. I think that would
Amazing.
I mean, that would be my advice.
Awesome, man. I love it when we get like some like solid kind of like deep advice, and then it goes to like just really practical, like go to brusheasy.com. So Reem, thank you so much for your insights.
Thank you for having me.
Make sure you go check out her profile as well. All right,
there's
Reem,
not many drawings on there, I'm sorry, but I mean, I do have a website. If you can access it, it's in my bio, and you can see more of my drawings on there. So yeah.
Okay. Reem, looking forward to seeing you. Yep.
All right, take care.
Take care.
Bye.
Cool. So we'll get Ji-Son on next. Ji-Son. I hope I'm saying your name right. Ji-Son has done some incredible drawings recently, and no doubt if you guys are on Instagram and the whole architecture thing, you've seen his drawing being shared everywhere. He does this kind of really kind of vivid kind of illustrated renders, and I think he's got a really strong sketch background. Hey.
Hello.
Am I saying your name properly?
Hi, sorry.
Am I saying your name properly?
Yeah, correct.
Ji-Son.
Yes, yep.
Awesome, man. Ji-Son, give a little intro about yourself.
Okay, sure. So I'm actually from Malaysia, but currently residing in Singapore and work with BDP Singapore. Yeah, and I am a postgrad close to 2 years ago. Yeah. So myself, I'm a designer in BDP, and also I have my some freelance in 3D visualization as well.
Where did you go to uni?
Is Malaysia. Yeah, Johor. If about that. Yeah.
Can I just say, wherever your microphone is, if it's in the earphones or the laptop, just bring it a bit closer to you.
Is it better?
Yeah, perfect. Did you choose a question or two?
Yeah, actually I picked question number 16.
16. Okay, so that was, we did
Yeah.
that one, but it'll be good to get your view. I never felt comfortable sharing my work with peers before it's polished. Why is that?
Yeah. Okay. So the reason why I picked this question because it's you have such strong association with me. In fact, that's a question that I'm still asking myself till now. So a big background of myself. I'm actually very interested in drawing comics. In fact, at some point, I did submit my comics to a local publication. Yeah.
Right.
So when I moved on to my first semester in architecture, my constant struggle was to whether should I like integrate my something that I'm very familiar with, like drawing comics, into like architecture visualization. And of course, I can tell the result. So 50-50, 50% of the panels don't really get that. And half of them actually feels like, hey, oh, it's actually quite interesting. And if you know comics, right, it's actually quite direct, quite raw. And how it convey message was through like chat box, like bubbles.
Mm.
Yeah, yeah. So it's something new and something very unpolished, but it's definitely what defines me, my style. Yeah.
So you're saying that a good way to kind of work on your kind of progressive work, the kind of work where you're not doing polished drawings, but you're just building your project, you can do these kind of quick comic book style sketches that convey your idea very quickly, but they can often look quite nice and refined and polished anyway.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. And I also very agree with what you mentioned like on previous video chat. You mentioned about like there are a lot of ideas like flying through. We don't really have much time to like polish them. So the better way is to just like record them down. Like
Right.
prefer spend more time polishing it. Right? Yeah.
Because
So
you're a sketch master,
yeah,
you've got your sketchbook with you, right?
yeah, yeah. I
So
do.
if you quickly turn the camera to your sketch pad,
Wow.
I'm gonna give you a
Okay.
challenge.
Okay. Why not?
Okay, so you know how everyone has their own way of drawing their, like a human figure.
Yes.
Could you draw four or five or as many options as you can? Let's do four. Can you do four different ways of drawing a human figure?
4 different ways of drawing human figures. Okay.
Or five, however many you think.
Okay, let's go with 5. Okay, so first, for a very quick sketch, so a basic background about comics that human is actually more important than buildings. So buildings basically sits on the background.
Hmm,
So what you want to do is to showcase some, like, sorry for camera view, like
that's fine.
action. Yeah. So this is the very basic one that you basically don't know what this people is doing.
Nice.
So what I will usually do is to add in some like gesture or something like if you are passing something to another person, just draw it.
Mm,
It can be a very quick sketch. Yeah.
awesome. So that's
So
a nice little quick rough one.
yeah, and especially in context of like if you are designing a public realm or in urban design, I think like having people interaction in your drawing is very crucial. Yeah. So let's go for a second one.
Awesome.
So say if you want to, it's also kind of depends on your style. Like what I would like to do is to always draw people back facing you, and what you can see them doing is you can basically see them walking towards one direction, and it kind of gives you like it leads your eye to a destination or a focal point. So that's what I want to like to do as well. And it's always good to have like kids, like interaction with something like this. Like you have a family, a parents, a kids.
So that's kind of like a diagram now. So you throw in, maybe you don't always need to do your figures as just figures. You can throw in some diagrammatic arrows in there. That's a nice tip.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Cool.
definitely.
Let's do the other two. Go. Other three.
And of course, if you were to go to my profile, you will see I actually give a lot of focus in drawing human details. Like I would think some little tiny details like hairstyle, like how your eye interacts with each other, or are you smiling, or are you in a very calm modes. Those details are actually important. Like if you are designing like a commercial area, it's always good to have people sitting on a coffee table, right? Instead of like just showing the commercial visualization. Yeah.
Awesome. That's a really good idea. You know, we're also kind of drilled with drawing our figures as strict kind of silhouettes, but you know, it doesn't take much effort to just draw a bit of emotion, and you never know. It might look a bit cheesy to start with, but you could actually get a lot more feeling conveyed in that image.
Yep, definitely.
Cool. Let's see the other ones quickly, and then we'll move on to the next guest.
Yeah. So let's do 4 we do. Okay. So the fourth one, let's see. My field of work, I deal with a lot of like urban design. So what I always do in my like visualization in urban context is to have more people, like you can crowd the place with people. So the very easy way is to
Yeah. Oh,
all these small little figures. Yeah, it can be very random, but
that's
from
really
all these small diagram, right, you can have people like sitting, leaning on trees.
yeah.
Yeah.
I really
If
like that.
populate all these figures in your
Yeah.
visualization, basically can convey a strong image message.
That one's my favorite. Awesome. Come on, let's do one last
Yeah.
one.
One more. Wow.
Yeah. If you've got any, but these have been amazing so far.
Okay. Let's see. Maybe let's touch on fashion as well. So fashion basically shows a lot. Like in Malaysia context, right? It is not advisable to show your like rendering or your works in a very typical way. So what I will do is in Malaysia context, you can basically draw in this. It's a sarong for Malay. Yeah.
Awesome,
And
man.
a song code. Yeah. So with a simple like a fashion gesture like this, you can basically differentiate your works from other
That's
contexts.
so
Right?
cool. You're
Yeah.
just putting one kind of cultural symbol on that kind of gives you an idea of who that person is, but you're not having to tell people, oh, these are Malaysian, Muslims. You can easily convey it with a kind of a hijab and like a cultural hat, right?
Yes, definitely.
Amazing. Ji-san, you are the master sketch master.
Thanks.
Thank you. Yeah, we'll catch up soon.
Thanks for having me. Thanks.
Take care. Awesome advice there by Ji-sun and a bit of live preview. We're going to get Eric Wong on, the guru. In some ways, my mentor. We had Eric Wong on the Design Talks podcast, and it's the most popular one. So go and check that out if you haven't already. Eric Wong has won so many awards and medals for his drawings from the Bartlett, and he works at, well, he'll tell you some stuff.
Hey, man, how's it going? Hey.
The guru himself with his award-winning drawings.
Oh, sorry. Okay, thanks, man. Yeah, congratulations again. I just wanted to say.
Thanks, man. It's been a good turnout. Dude, tell everyone about yourself quickly.
I graduated in 2016, quite a while ago, 4 years ago. Currently working as an architect. Recently qualified 2 years ago, and currently teaching as well. And that's what I'm doing at the moment. So yeah, thanks for having me.
And Eric Wong these are my words, don't worry, it's just my opinion. He's the prodigy student of CJ Lim. So everyone knows the Unit 10 in the Bartlett. Eric Wong worked very closely with CJ Lim and even practiced with him. So yeah, Eric, did you choose a question?
Yeah, actually, one of the questions was answered by Reem earlier, but it was 12 and 23. But
Cool.
I'd happily touch on 12 again and yeah, 23.
So
yeah.
12 was, do you know what you're going to do in advance, or do you just start and see where it goes?
Yeah, and I think the answer is you never really know where you go, right? I think and that was answered by my tutor a while ago. He goes, Eric, if you know what you're going to do the next day, what's the point of getting up? And I guess it's to do with like, kind of enjoying the process, enjoying the ride before you get to the end result. Because I remember starting 5th year and going, actually, this is my last chance. This is going to be a big project. It's my final year. I want it to be like this, this, and this. I'm going to do that. And then 1 or 2 months into it, 2 weeks in, you're like, oh, actually, it's changed a lot. It's not this. And obviously, the beauty of a project is just not knowing where it goes and just seeing where it'll take you. And unexpected things happen and original work come out of it, out of like just developing it. And you won't know till you do it, right? So that's kind of my answer to question 12.
It's kind of thing like to have that kind of playful spirit and not be too kind of fearful of where you think it should go.
Yeah, exactly, right? Yeah.
Just to let you guys know, that episode with Eric I did on my podcast, it was you can see me being inspired by it, because he was kind of teaching me his kind of the things he was doing and what knowledge had been passed down to him by CJ. My mind was being opened up completely, because I came in kind of asking you about what's the point of fictional and fantastical stuff, and I wanted to play devil's advocate, but you so eloquently kind of convinced me of the beauty of kind of being playful and really kind of being a kid again with your drawings. And you can see those amazing posters in the back of Eric's room.
So embarrassing.
Incredible drawings that we've seen, and it's all about what he's saying. But yeah, man, I 100% echo what he's saying. What was the other question?
Is there a specific way you have when it comes to choosing color? And just to touch on question 12 again about not knowing where you go, I never thought I would do drawings like that in my life. And to add on top of that, I never thought I'd do it in color. And I only really touched color properly in 5th year, which is like part of the reason why I wanted to touch on that question. But so this is more of a kind of technical question, and it's just from my experience. And just reading the question again. I think choosing color is a fun thing, a very interesting thing to do. And I tend to draw inspirations from cinematographers, graphic designers, illustrators. Like Roger Deakins does amazing cinematography, like in Blade Runner. You got amazing people like Chris Doyle, Wes Anderson, and they all use colors in very specific ways and very specific proportions. And what makes it very successful for your project is choosing references that are related to your project. So if it's to do with something Spanish, you look at Spanish paintings, or if it's to do with something else, you look at that specific kind of reference, and then look at the colors that are used then and there, and go, actually, how can I incorporate that to give my project of to add to my project? And so it's really interesting just to see how all these different people use color and how you can really bring it to your project. And it's not just about the few colors they use, it's also about the proportion of color they add to it. And the reason why I chose that question again was because it was one of the last critique questions I had in my final crit in 5th year, where it was like, Eric, are your drawings on black and white? Why don't you add color? Well, you can use color very specifically to convey certain ideas and certain aspects of it. And so I think it's quite important to play with that in some ways.
To kind of find your palette, find your story, let the color relate and be a component of the drawing's kind of mechanics. Let it be a part of telling the story. Again, just to reiterate, after your episode with me, and I think some people have seen, the drawings that I did, that were the kind of the Palestine refugee camps with the crazy, colors. I did that. I started planning those drawings straight after I spoke to you.
No way.
So
awesome, man.
If you guys want to be inspired to do some crazy, amazing drawings, and maybe now, before deadlines, you start your master drawing, the one key amazing one, go and watch that episode with Eric. Eric, I want to quickly ask you one last question, which is by Liv Hughes, who says, what do you do when you're asked to change your design at a late stage crit?
By who?
Huh?
By who?
So
By
if your tutor, for example, at your crit says, maybe gives you a bit of a bad crit. I know you've probably never had a bad crit.
bad crit, man.
But they say to you've got to really rethink this. So when you're in that kind of that moment where you've got someone's someone's perspective is you need to redesign or you need to change your design. How do you deal with that at such a late stage?
I think kind of sit back and think, can I do it? And then go, I've got to trust my tutor and I trust myself that I'm capable of doing it. And if there's something wrong with it, then I need to figure out what that is and then step back, take a step back and then revisit it. I think it's worthwhile. I think that's why you're in education and why you're in architecture school, to learn from these amazing tutors that are there to support you and to guide you. And they have a gut feeling about certain things. And then you just have to take a step back and understand what they're saying to you and whether it's applicable and reasonable, and then go, actually, yeah, I'll trust you. I'll give it a go. Right? I think, yeah, trust yourself and trust them.
All right, Eric, thank you so much, man. I hope we'll do one more again and we can get some more time with you.
Yeah, definitely, man. Thanks for having me. And thank you, everyone, for being here. And thanks again, man. All right, take care, man. See you around.
So I'm sure most of you have already seen Eric's work, but if you want to be inspired, then definitely go and check his work. Okay, next we have got Seni Arts, who has still not told me his name. And I think it is Seni, but you will have to tell me your name now.
Oh.
Hello.
Let me set this up a little bit better.
Okay, so I need a name.
The name. You say it's spelled that way, so I don't really mind when people.
I've been saying your name properly, right?
No, so it's spelled right, yeah, but it's Shaney pronounced.
Shaney.
And yeah, it's Hamza, right?
Yeah, Hamza. Shaney, I'm sorry for saying Seni for so long, and it's nice to finally actually talk to you. Seni, quickly tell us about yourself.
Shaney.
Shaney, tell us about yourself.
That's okay. So I am first year master's student, Westminster. I graduated from Birmingham in 2016. Worked for 3 years I worked for 2 years in Birmingham and half a year in Rotterdam. But since then, I've been in London.
Cool, man. Shaney, did you pick a question or two to answer?
I did. I got a question from an outsource, but it relates to question 11. And the one I really liked was question 27. So maybe we can start with that.
All right, yeah. So 27 is, any advice you would give to first years who might find these drawings, I'm assuming the big, crazy showpiece ones, a bit overwhelming?
Yeah. For me, that kind of related to all drawings, because I think, and all years, because I think we have a tendency to, jump on Pinterest, see a lot of work on Instagram, and just think, oh, how did they do that? Mine doesn't look like that.
Yeah.
And especially if you're trying to work on these final drawings, I'd say to work to your strengths, really stick to them. Don't try anything new, especially when you're in your final year. Also, what I find has been really key for me is to develop your own sort of style. All the best drawings I've seen seem really personal. Like it seems really personal to that person that's developing them. And the next thing would be to focus on what you're interested in. Me specifically, I've always been interested in renders, 3D renders, but that doesn't mean I don't love Photoshop renders. That doesn't mean I don't love to see hand-drawn sketches, but my particular interest is the 3D stuff. So really just focus on that and don't get lost in the amount of work there is out there, because there's a lot of work.
That's I think really quality advice. I think it's one thing I would add is, I don't know what you think about this, but maybe we disagree, but maybe we agree that, you said about how you should stick to your kind of strengths and have your particular style. Do you mean in particular to each project, or do you mean generally as a student, as a designer?
What do you mean when you say each project?
So for example, you're going through a uni, you might have your first year project, and they're usually you will have one module. So let's say for that module, for example, one of the projects I did, I strictly focused on Revit, and I strictly focused on having this kind of alto feel to my work, and that was my focus. Or do you mean as a kind of holistic advice for generally designing, being an architecture student, to stick to your strengths?
I guess what I meant was when you're in that final year, especially if you're in your first year and you're developing, always your interest is always gonna change, and your focus on your path is always gonna lead you somewhere else. But I was more specifically speaking to the fact that if you're in your final year and you want to make that impression with the final drawings, work on your strengths and don't get lost on the idea of what you see on Pinterest and Instagram, and start trying new things at a later stage. That's personally what I was speaking to.
100%. Yeah, I definitely will echo that when it comes to your final work and your final project. You obviously want to be picking, the strongest things you can do. If you're amazing at hand drawing, then really, really try to show that off.
Yeah.
But
so down when you're doing hand drawings and you see someone do an amazing render.
Yeah.
Why can't I render? Well, you can do an amazing hand drawing, and the more you work towards that skill, the better it's going to be. So.
Right. Someone else asked something similar about, if I'm a sketcher and I do all these amazing fine art sketches, how do I translate that into architecture? I think you're touching on that as well, that use that as your strength. You don't need to do a refined CAD drawing, maybe. You should do your amazing kind of fine arty sketches. What was the other question you wanted to ask?
Question 11.
11 was, what should we show in a drawing? Is it the idea, the feeling, the perception, technology?
Right, yeah. And the reason why I like this question is because I got a question from someone who asked, how do you know when a drawing is complete?
No.
The easy answer is you don't. It's never complete. I think the best drawings I've done are drawings when I didn't have the prep uni. But I like those questions, and I think they've been sort of answered earlier in the talks. How do you know when a drawing is complete? And could you repeat question 11?
Yeah, so what do you want to show in a drawing, or what should we show in a drawing? Is it the idea, the feeling, the perception, the technology, or is it all of those things? Or should we focus on one?
All of those things. But I think when you set up that initial view, you know your project better than anyone.
Right.
When you set that view, you know exactly what needs to be shown in it, and that once that intent has been shown, communicated, I like to, when I've done a drawing, I like to ask my mum, Mum, what do you think of this? Because she knows nothing about architecture, but she's interested in what I'm interested in, and if the idea communicates to her, then I know that the job is done. And then that could easily be atmosphere, seasons, interactions between people, or maybe it's just a simple diagram that just shows how something is fitted together. The simpler it is, the better, in my.
Mate, I think you hit a really important point there about setting your view. So especially for people in the 3D modeling realm, if you go and you explore your model, you suddenly find that's the killer view. Use that, print it out, sketch over it, find your kind of what your concept is, and so on, right? Shaney, I think we're in good time. Just to let everyone know, it's gonna cut off in 3 seconds, so join back again. Thank you.